everybody to another episode of Heavy in the Paint, baseball edition. It has happened, and it's happened not in the way that I thought it would. Make sure you subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. You can always catch me on Sirius XM NBA Radio, Channel 86, as well as on the Nightcap on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Bringing back one of the best in the business, an outstanding, very insightful gentleman. When it comes down to Major League Baseball, I trust his opinion, the one and only Mr. Ricky Keeler. Ricky, we talked about this a few weeks back, and you had said it would probably come down to around the time of the baseball winter meetings. And obviously Juan Soto is perhaps maybe Major League Baseball's version of LeBron James, 26 years of age, free agent. We heard so many things, Dodgers, Mets, Yankees, and you just said, you know what? He's got to be able to come back to the Yankees. He doesn't. He lands with the New York Mets. What is it, 15 years? 15 years, $765 million with the possibility of it escalating to $805 million. Ricky, money talks. I get that, but you said that you wouldn't discount and don't discount the New York Mets. Why did you feel the way you did, which inevitably proved to be right?
Well, Gerald, it comes down to this. I don't think Steve Cohen was going to lose this one. Steve Cohen is a guy that comes from a lot of wealth. A lot of people talked about his ability with collecting art, and art doesn't depreciate. So Steve Cohen probably looks at it as, okay, if Juan Soto is doing this at year 12 and year 13, but I got a couple of titles out of it, I'm okay with it. It just comes down to this is the generational piece that the Mets need. And they're trying to not only build a winner, but to build a sustainable winner. And to have this guy with Lindor and him being the center guy, like this is the guy you build things through. And there's stuff with the Mets, but we can get into it what the pros with the Mets are. But in the end, he was just going to go where the money talks. And I give Hal Steinbrenner at least some credit for getting to 760 because the Yankees, I know, didn't want to go that direction, but they gave it a try. You don't like to give people credit for trying, but I think in this case, when you're offering the biggest contract in professional sports, you kind of get a benefit of the doubt for giving it a shot. But again, he wanted the money, and I guess to me, I don't know if he's LeBron. I think he's just a really good businessman. I mean, he turned down $440 from the Nats, and he's going to get maybe $800 from the Mets. So talk about a guy who banked on himself and got a lot of money out of it.
It's a great business move, right? And I think clearly, look, this helps Major League Baseball, right? So we look at this, Major League Baseball announces this on a Sunday. Well, Juan Soto announces this on a Sunday. And there's no, Monday Night Football. There's not that much NBA. It's full attention on this signing. But, and I get it. I'm happy for him that he got his money, generational wealth. This is a very, very big moment for him, for his team, for his family. But I keep coming back to this thing where it's the unknown, right? Like overall, right? Look, I get it, the monies and stuff. It's 765 on the surface. Yankees 760, an extra year. I get all that matters, but a level of comfort. Right. I talked to an agent today and said, hey, look, Scott Boras made out like a fat rat. Right. This is great because he's making $800 million. Scott Boras, in all likelihood, gets 20% of that. So you're talking about somewhere upward about 100 or so million that Boras has made in client fees. But at the end of the day, and he has to opt out in 5 years. You can get right back out in the market at 26, at 31. I just look at the fact is that you knew what you had in New York. It's nothing like New York and playing for the Yankees. Nothing like Yankee Stadium. And this is no disrespect to the Mets. Aaron Judge is Aaron Judge. You know what you have. And the path to a World Series is a lot easier in the AL than it is in the NL when you got the MLB's version of the Lakers and the Los Angeles Dodgers. When you look at this, how do you see this? And I mean, still, if you look at those right there and weighing these apples and oranges, did he look like he might have made the wrong decision?
I don't think so. Just because, I mean, it's tough for us to say he made the wrong decision because in the end, it's him making the money. But over 15 years, these things can change. Like right now, the NL looks great. Who knows in 5 to 10 years if that stays the same? I think the difference you brought up, Judge. Judge can look out, and I heard this on the Michael Kay show today. Like Judge can look out in left field and see Monument Park and imagine himself as a homegrown player getting a plaque and getting 99 up there. What does Juan Soto really see? I mean, this is the guy the Yankees got for the sole purpose of winning a World Series. There was no allure to stay with the pinstripes. There was no allure to accomplish a goal he didn't accomplish is really the one thing you could maybe like. What's the Yankees pitch really in courting this guy? But the Mets can truly go out and court this guy, right, and make him feel like the center of attention. Juan Soto is not the center of attention with the New York Yankees. But you know what? Just the way it is.
And I heard that before, and I question. My apologies to interrupt you because I'm saying he was adored in Yankee Stadium in right field. The bleacher creatures embraced him, and it just seemed apparent that look, Aaron Judge, legacy. He's the captain. It didn't really overshadow Juan Soto because Juan Soto, for all intents and purposes, you know what? Listen, he helped Aaron Judge to see a lot of pitches based upon the fact that he was on base. It really worked together. So that's why I'm trying to figure out where now it sounds like the ego where, look, aside from the additional money, if it's $5 million difference on the surface and you wanted to make $50 million a year as opposed to 46, 47, and you're going to a team that you already spent the year and you went to the World Series, you lost in 5 games. I just can't wrap my head around it. And I'll ask you, does winning really matter anymore?
This depends on the player. I mean, we talked about this a few weeks ago. I mean, Soto does have a World Series ring to his credit. He's not out there necessarily trying to get that elusive first one on the resume. Like he can now go out there and look for different things and different what necessarily fits him. Like he was loved by the bleacher creatures, yes. But in the back of his mind, you think about all the times he was asked about the fans and asked about all these things, and he would answer like a Scott Boras client. He would answer without really appealing to the fans or appealing to anything at all. Doesn't mean he doesn't like Yankee fans, but at the same time, I mean, he knows how to play in New York. I don't think moving from one borough to the other really changes that. If anything, you talk about a team that, yes, there's an unknown, but a team that did make it to the NLCS and a team that still has Francisco Lindor. If Lindor is not Judge, but Lindor is still a runner-up MVP candidate, and now you maybe put Soto third in front of a guy like Vientos, who had a good year, and now Vientos gets more pitches to hit. I mean, it does change some things. I don't really look at the Soto stuff and say winning doesn't matter because it's not like the Mets are not set up with Stearns and with Cohen to win. I think it's just more they have the finances, and you think about it, if the Yankees got Soto, they couldn't do anything else. The Mets still can do other things because they're off the Scherzer contract. They're off the Verlander contract. They're off the James McCann contract, I believe. So there's so much deferred money that now they didn't give them any deferrals, but they're off so much of the bad contracts they had. They can spend more. The Yankees, if they gave Soto that money, couldn't really do much anything else. And there's still so many holes they have.
Well, let me ask you this then. So when you talk about that, right, baseball analyst Ricky Keeler joining me here, heavy in the paint, Gerald Brown. What is next for the New York Mets? Give me a name or two that's out there that you really could see, because clearly you can't take this team right now on paper and say that the Mets, you can't even say they're the best team in the NL East. I mean, Soto's a good piece, but give me a name that perhaps Met fans should look out and look for the Mets to upgrade and maybe a player or two.
Well, obviously, I think the first one is what happens with Pete Alonso. I mean, do the Mets feel that now if they got Soto, they have the money to get Pete Alonso to stay? Does Pete Alonso take less with the Mets with Soto and Lindor, or does he try to get the most money? I mean, that comes down to, again, I think he also is represented by Boris. Yeah, so that'll be interesting to see what he decides to do. If you're going outside of the Pete front, it's starting pitching, because outside of Senga, who's coming off injury, David Peterson had a breakout year. You're looking at having to replace Manaea, replacing Severino, who gets the big money from the Sacramento A's, and Quintana. You bring in Frankie Montas, who I don't know what he is, and Yankee fans never knew what he was because he never pitched, but he was okay with Milwaukee somewhat. They bring in Clay Holmes, who's going to start for the first time in 2018, so who knows what Clay Holmes is going to be as a starter. To me, I'm looking at what does David Stearns do well, and what he did well last year was getting pitchers with low-risk, high-reward stuff. Sevy was that. Manaea was that. So you're looking at Walker Buehler. You're looking at Jack Flaherty. You're looking at Nate Eovaldi. You're looking at Nick Pivetta. You're looking at maybe one or two of those guys that want to take a 1-2 year deal and want to come to a winner and boost their value a little bit. Like, Stearns is not going to go out there and make the big pitching move because those things can work, but they're going to try to supplement it in other ways. So I think pitching is really what they need more. So I'm interested to see what arms Stearns can add on top of what they have, because I think that's their weakness, but they got to the CS with a patchwork rotation last year.
So you don't think they would add, outside of Pete Alonso, you don't think that they would add another bat?
Well, the question I think would be, the only bat I could see is Bregman moving to third, but that would require, if Bregman went to third, then you'd probably have to put Vientos at first, which would mean Pete is gone. So if Pete's gone and they want to pivot to Bregman, that's great. But all right, you're going to add Glaber to replace McNeil? Probably not. They've got enough outfielders as is with Taylor, adding Jose Siri. Marte's still in the mix, so they don't really need to add outfilders. So they have Alvarez behind the plate. So really, it's just the corner infield. If they do add a bat, and it's either going to be Pete, or maybe if Pete's gone, they make the move with Bregman. I think, to me, it's more so when you're going up against Atlanta and Philly and LA and San Diego, because that's the clear other four besides the Mets. You got to pitch, and I think it's more so with the lack of big bats on the market. Now that Soto's gone, or they have him, but you have to get pitching. And I think that's where they should go next.
Yeah, Alex Bregman, obviously from the Houston Astros. Okay, let's flip over to the Yankees, Ricky. The moment, Juan Soto, it was known publicly, it became a situation where now, look, Brian Cashman is going to earn his money, right? This is going to be one of those situations, and hopefully it's not a knee-jerk reaction. Like they went out, I think the last time, and went out and traded for Giancarlo Stanton, and obviously that has just been a load. But Anthony Santander, left-handed bat, 30 years old. He's played in the AL East. I like him. Again, he hit with power. Is he Soto? No. The best thing is they got to find guys that they could perhaps get out there that show up defensively. But give me some other names or perhaps positions and areas that you would like for the Yankees to go now. And hopefully they take this Hal Steinbrenner and says, hey, look, we got $760 million, spend it, which I don't believe is going to be the case because they don't want to go anywhere near that luxury tax. But give me some guys that perhaps you think the Yankees will move on, go after now that Juan Soto is no longer coming back.
Well, I think that the misconception, you brought it up well, they don't have $760 million to spend. They have essentially $40 to $50 million that was allotted to Soto to spend. That's where, on top of whatever signing bonus. So let's say $60 million signing bonus. So let's say it's like $80 to $100 million, let's say. All right. So I like Santander, but the defense is an issue. And I think between Toronto and Boston and all that competition, that's going to be tough to get. So look, they're not replacing Soto. I think you have to really go in saying you're not going to get a bat that replaces Soto. So do you go after Bregman to play third? Maybe, but Boston's looking at Bregman. So who knows what happens there. I think the best thing the Yankees could do, there's a couple of things. You look at getting Walker at first and maybe trading for Cody Bellinger, which you can get for next to nothing to play center. Because I think the goal is to get Judge in right. Now that you don't have to worry about Judge in center field anymore, you keep his legs fresh. Maybe that helps him going forward. And they've always liked Bellinger. You could probably go that direction. To me, go get starting pitching. To me, it's more so, all right, if I can't get my offense better, make a strength better. And they're obviously looking at Max Fried. They like Max Fried. And if you go in and you can now take, if you get Fried or a Burns or somebody like that, you can now take Cortez or Schmidt or Heel and trade for offense. So I think what you said works. Cashman's going to earn his money because Hal took the L to Cohen, and that's okay. Cashman can't take the L to Stearns. He has to get creative. I look at this more like the Stanton thing and not so much. I look at it more like 13 when they lost Cano and they got Ellsbury and McCann and Beltran and Tanaka. And it set this team back 2-3 years. They can't spend stupid. And that's where I think it's like if you go out there and you overspend for Teoscar Hernandez and you overspend for offense that isn't sustainable, you're going to just make it worse. To me, it's okay. If I can't win with offense in a weak American League, let me just go stack arms and get ready for the playoffs and try to get best with run prevention, get pitching and defense, because you're going to hit home runs. The Yankees do that better than anybody. If they get Walker who hits homers and defends, Bellinger is a decent defender in center, you can make things work. Plan Bs are never as great as Soto's plan A, but there's a lot of variety. At least getting this done now in December, they have a lot of options they can turn to.
Yeah. I don't know about Christian Walker. I mean, that's the gentleman for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Yeah, Cody Bellinger. You know, look, Walker is a little bit old. I think he's about 34. So I think that's just kind of like a pseudo Anthony Rizzo type of guy that you can plug and play right there. I do like Cody Bellinger, but at what cost and what price? You know, I'm not really up for giving up Clark Schmidt as well as Luis Hill, especially after, look, you gave up Michael King. You gave up Michael King, and then you lost Wandy Peralta from the bullpen to essentially just rent Juan Soto. So I don't know if I could feel comfortable, you know, young players that are still able to be controlled contractually.
I don't think you're trading both. I think it's more
either one of them.
Fried. Yeah, but if you get Fried, right, you have Cole, Rodon, Fried, Stroman, Cortez, Heel, Schmidt. You got a surplus. Like, you're trading from surplus. You're not going out there and trading guys that you desperately need. And it might not be for those specific players. It's going to be, maybe it's a guy we've not heard of that's available that you get a move for. Like Cody Bellinger, you can get for not much because he's only got 1 year and the Cubs don't want to pay that money. Like, if you take on that money, you aren't paying up that much of an arm. And Walker, even at 34, what I like about Walker is he hits for power and he's a Gold Glove first baseman. Like, what do the Yankees need? Gold Glove defense at first base. Like that, to me, a lot of the playoff losses they had was not because they didn't hit, it's because they didn't defend. If you make the defense better and you add a couple of runs here or there, like what are the Yankees, we talked about it last time, didn't have a home run from a first baseman after July 31st. So if you get anything at first base, this offense is better than what it was. That was with Soto. So it kind of, if you address a couple positions, you can make this team somewhat close. If it's not going to be the same, but in the American League, you don't need to do too much unless you see Baltimore or Boston. Because like I looked at it yesterday, like if Baltimore doesn't get Burns and most of the big free agents go to the National League, there's not much the Yankees need to do. They just got to improve on the margins.
Before we wrap up, Ricky, if a gut feeling how everything is played out right now, do you think the Yankees are still a playoff team based upon the moves that they make?
Oh yeah, I mean, you're talking about a team that's still. I mean, people look back to the same team from 2 years ago. They won 82 games in a year when Judge missed half the season in 23. So right now, I mean, you got the rotation. They got to add to the bullpen. They got to make some moves on offense. But at the same time, this is still a team that's capable of winning 88 to 90. And in the American League, that should make the playoffs. They're going to add pieces. Like, I think we all are looking at the Soto stuff and saying it's terrible they didn't get him, and all that makes sense. And it's tough when you give up all the pieces they gave up and the risks they took, and they got to a World Series with it. But there's still plenty of time this offseason. Brian Cashman's going to make a move. He said today at the Winter meetings they're going to get aggressive. They're going to do things. And I think if they're the National League, that's tougher. But the American League, if they don't make the playoffs with the lack of dominant teams, that's a failure. That's one that loses people jobs. So I don't see how they're not a playoff team in 25. They're gonna add, and they're gonna be the same team. It's just they're not going to be the elite offense that they were. Now it's time to see if you can improve other ways.
Now, if they do add another piece or two, do you put them in a situation where you say they can come out the AL and represent to the World Series and represent the American League in the World Series?
Yeah. I mean, again, like that's the thing. I was thinking about it yesterday. I was like, okay, give me the other team. You still scared of Cleveland? Like, okay, Cleveland brings back Bieber. They still don't hit. Kansas City and Detroit, I need to see them do it again. The Astros are getting older. Baltimore, if they don't bring back Burns and they add like another arm, they still don't have that elite ace. What's Boston? What's Toronto? There's so many questions in the AL that the Yankees should be a top 2 or 3 favorite to get out and win the pennant, just because they're going to make those moves. They're not competing with the Dodgers and the Padres and the Phillies and the Braves. Now, if they get to the World Series, yeah, the NL's drastically better. But they don't need to outspend themselves or outsmart themselves to get out of the American League, because right now the AL is just down. And that's what I was thinking about yesterday. Like, Willie Adames went to the Giants. If 2 or 3 more stars go to the NL, then what's really the American League right now?
Yeah, it's really up for grab. Hey, Ricky, before I let you get on out of here, let everybody know where they can find your work and everything that you have going on.
Well, you can follow me on X or Twitter, whatever you call it, at Ricanator555. And catch my show, New York State of Sports, every Monday at noon on IE Sports Radio, at NY State Sports IE on Twitter. We talked a lot of Soto stuff on Monday's show. We talked a little Rangers. Still, the Giants and Jets keep losing, so we just talk about them just because. Maybe Shedeur Sanders we'll talk about some more. But nevertheless, good show. Check out some of my network at Mesmerized as well. And yeah, tune in. It's a lot of fun.
Hey, Ricky, always appreciate you, my friend. You and your family have a beautiful and wonderful holiday season. And we just got to sit back and wait and let Cashman and the Yankee staff do what they need to do. But it's a great day for Major League Baseball overall. I appreciate it. Definitely to look forward to talking to you real soon.
Same to you, my friend. Happy holidays to you and your family.
Appreciate it. Ricky Keeler, one of the best in the business. Heavy in the paint. Peace.